I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch Network, and this is a breaking news alert. The Fulton County District Attorney's Office, led by Fani Willis, has completed its proceedings before the special grand jury that has been impaneled for some time in Fulton County, investigating crimes relating to 2020 election interference. Now, as part of what this special grand jury's role was to ultimately work with the Fulton County District Attorney and prepare a report that would be recommending criminal prosecutions against certain individuals who were involved in 2020 election interference. The special grand jury process is a unique one in Fulton County and Georgia, where the special grand jury itself doesn't engage in criminal indictments like other grand juries. What the special grand jury does is it makes recommendations to pursue criminal charges in a separate grand jury. It's like a two-step process. Now, the district attorney doesn't have to follow the recommendations of the special grand jury one way or the other and could just go to the grand jury without consulting the special grand jury. But the purpose of having the special grand jury, though, is to provide all of this evidence, allow the special grand jury to hear it, to then empower the Fulton County prosecutor, the district attorney, to then go to the grand jury armed with the fact that this special grand jury, this impartial group, heard the facts and made these recommendations and then ultimately put it in a report. And all of these proceedings are being overseen by a judge in Fulton County, Judge McBurney, who we've talked about here before on the MeidasTouch Network. And so what Judge McBurney did is issued an order today. That's how we know that Fani Willis's criminal investigation and the work of the special grand jury is now complete. And in this order issued by Judge McBurney, he explains that the grand jury, the special grand jury, has recommended that their report be made public. And what the judge is saying is there's law that is a little bit conflicting here about whether or not these reports should be made public or they should be kept under seal. Ultimately, if there are criminal indictments that take place, then that, of course, will be made public. But this special grand jury proceeding is so unique that there is some conflicting precedent here. So what Judge McBurney's doing is asking the district attorney's office and any interveners, meaning any of the other parties who may have some interest in this. And who Judge McBurney's really speaking to are the people who are targets of the Fulton County District Attorney's criminal investigation, and specifically people like the fake electors in Georgia. These are some top MAGA Republicans in Georgia who all met to empower themselves unlawfully to become a fake elector, a fraudulent elector slate, to submit their names instead of the real electors based on the fact that Joe Biden won the state of Georgia. These electors were going to submit their names instead of the real electors, and actually did submit their names. Now, their defense is, oh, well, we were just doing that in case Donald Trump prevailed in his lawsuits, but they never withdrew their names after Donald Trump lost all of his lawsuits. And so that argument rings a bit hollow. So let me just read for you what Judge McBurney put in his order of today. And let's talk about what comes next. And I'll try to break down some of the legal complexity here. Judge McBurney writes, given the special purpose grand jury's delivery of its final report, meaning they submitted the final report, the undersigned, referring to the judge, recommendation, and the Superior Court's bench vote, it is the order of the court that the special purpose grand jury now stands dissolved. In other words, their work is done. The court thanks the grand jury for their dedication, professionalism, and significant commitment of time and attention to this important matter. It was no small sacrifice to serve. And this special grand jury has been impaneled for quite some time, and so they did put in a lot of work here. Now the judge goes on to say, remaining is the question of publication of the final report. The special purpose grand jury certified that it voted to recommend that the report be published pursuant to Georgia law section 1512-80. That provision is mandatory, and it states, quote, the judge shall order the publication as recommended. And that provision appears to apply to the work of the special purpose grand juries. Unresolved, however, is the question of whether the special purpose grand jury's final report constitutes a presentment. That's a very technical term, and I'll talk about what a presentment is in a second. The court invites argument on this issue and sets the matter down for a hearing on the 24th of January 2023 at noon in courtroom 8D. The district attorney's office shall be given an opportunity at the time to provide its perspective, as will any consolidated media interveners. Argument should focus on the applicability of Georgia law section 15-12-80 to the special purpose grand jury's work, as well as the precedential impact, and then it talks about certain cases. So what you do here is you go into the law. We look at section 15-12-80, publication of general presentments, and it states, grand juries are authorized to recommend to the court the publication of the whole or any part of their general presentments and to prescribe the manner of publication. When the recommendation is made, the judge shall order the publication as recommended. Notice, it's shall. Reasonable charges, therefore, shall be paid out of the county treasury upon the certification of judge as other court expenses are paid. But note that that refers to grand juries. It doesn't refer to special grand juries. And what Judge McBurney is focused on within this is, yes, this is mandatory. It does use the word shall, but the question of, is this a general presentment or not? So then we have to go, well, what is a presentment? A presentment results when the police or the district attorney conduct their own investigations and they convey their findings to a grand jury. And if the grand jury determines that a probable cause exists, usually a presentment in the form of a, quote, bill of indictment is returned. And each member of the grand jury and the district attorney must endorse the presentment. And so the question, because this is a report that is recommending criminal charges be filed before another grand jury, clearly in the other grand jury, if there was a presentment there or an indictment there, that would 100% be made public. But does that same requirement exist here in the special grand jury? In essence, is what the special grand jury is doing in the report. Is the report a presentment or just a report? The judge gives his feelings, though, there, and I read it, where the judge says, this seems to apply, though, to special grand juries, but the judge wants to be diligent. So by the judge setting that date of January 24th, we know right now that the report's not going to be released before that time, but likely by the end of this month, we'll see the recommendations if there are criminal charges being recommended against individuals who were involved in election interference in Georgia. Let's reflect for a second as well. Why is Georgia so important? Well, it was the heart of this fake elector scheme, one of the states that were the heart of this fake elector scheme, which I just mentioned. And so there are a number of top MAGA Republicans there who Fani Willis has stated are targets of the investigation. And in addition, Georgia, of course, is the state where Donald Trump extorted and unlawfully pressured Brad Raffensperger to find him the votes. find me 11,000 plus votes so that we can unlawfully overturn the election, or else very bad things are going to happen to you, Brad. You wouldn't want these things to happen to you. Donald Trump said that was the perfect call. That call was an unlawful call. That call is also subject to the criminal investigation by special counsel Jack Smith as well, within the Department of Justice Special Counsel investigatory criminal investigation work, where there are 2 grand juries impaneled in Washington, D.C. investigating Donald Trump's crimes. But folks, this is very big news. We've been talking about the Fani Willis investigation, criminal investigation, for some time. The work of the special grand jury is concluded under the supervision of Judge McBurney. The one thing just to note, though, again, is that this special grand jury does not have the power to indict. The recommendations will then be formulated by the district attorney to go in front of an actual criminal grand jury. All the work will be done, so by the time it goes in front of the criminal grand jury, I expect that to be very fast. So if you're wondering in timing of when I think that there will be criminal charges filed against whoever, if there are recommendations for criminal charges be filed, I think you're probably looking late February to early March, since essentially all the work will have been done by this special grand jury to then interpose within the new grand jury. I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch Network. Hit the subscribe button right now. We are on our way to 1 million subscribers thanks to your incredible support, so please hit the subscribe button. I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch Network. Oh, and check us out at patreon.com/MeidasTouch. Until next time.
MeidasTouch is unapologetically pro-democracy. And look, we know you are too. So please make sure you check out our best-selling shirt and our best-selling gear, the unapologetically pro-democracy gear. And hey, while you're at it, make sure you check out my favorite shirt and one of our most famous designs, It Wasn't Rigged, You're Just a Loser, at store.meidastouch.com. That's store.meidastouch.com.